Hi guys, my name is Hallie and I'm going to be leading you through a hip mobility class today. And this is my cat Matcha, and she's so adorable. She won't be doing any of the movement with us today, but she might make an appearance walking through, so just know this is Matcha. And yeah, okay. So I am an FRC Mobility Specialist and Kinstretch Instructor. I'm also a yoga instructor, personal trainer, and a dancer, so I have a lot of things that kind of work together in my toolbox to create a dynamic mobility experience for you. And today's focus is going to be hip focused. So let's get started. We're going to start by going into some tension building to really get our neurological system engaged and woken up, so that way we can really create the adaptations that we're hoping to achieve regarding our range of motion. So you're going to start in a tall kneeling position. Okay, so bring your toes to curl under toward your shins, and then drop your tailbone down toward the floor, squeezing and engaging both butt cheeks. Stand nice and tall like you're in a standing plank. Bring your arms down by your side, palms facing forward. Find the tallest posture that you can here, and just take a few breaths, noticing how your body feels today. Just taking these moments to expand your diaphragm and create a nice big inhale. Long exhales. Let's take 2 more breaths like that. Inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth. 1 more big breath in. Big breath out. So we're going to stay in this posture and start to build up tension. So you're going to bring your hands into fists. You're going to squeeze your inner thighs together as if you have a yoga block between your thighs. Engage your glutes a little more tightly. Brace your abs as if you're in a plank. Push your fists down toward the floor. Whole body is engaged, and I want you to get to what feels like 25% of your maximum potential tension for today. So it's just a light amount of tension, but I want you to feel it all the way from your feet through the top of your head. Okay, and hold here at 25% for 1 more breath. And now on your next exhale, we're gonna ramp up to 50% of your maximum tension, so engaging all those places a little more fully. Really take the time to build up. Holding here at 50% for another breath. And now on your next exhale, ramping up to 75%. It might start to feel like you're in a standing plank, really getting everything fired up. Good, you might even have a little bit of some trembles here. Take 1 more breath at your 75%. And then exhale, ramp up to your maximum potential tension for today. So really getting everything fully engaged. Take 1 more breath here at your 100%. And now we're gonna slowly come down back to 75%, so only releasing a little bit of tension here at first. Good, on your next exhale, coming down to your 50%, so releasing a little bit more. Whole body is still engaged. Exhale down to your 25%. Good, and exhale back down to your baseline. Go ahead, release your fists. Take a nice big breath in. Big breath out. Good, and you'll probably feel a little bit more awake and present with your body after that. Now I'm just gonna turn sideways so you guys can see me. We're gonna move through some scapula cars next. So these are controlled articular rotations. They are slow circles of your joint, trying to get to your end range and really feel that out, making the transitions between the positions nice and smooth. So with our scap cars, we're going to bring our hands in front of us. We're going to keep our palms open today for this. Energize out through your fingers. Start with your shoulders drop down away from your ears as much as you can. Keep your abdominal wall braced and your glutes squeezed, tailbone dropping down. And then you're going to bring your shoulder blades together onto your spine. Squeeze them back as far as you can, and then keep them squeezed together as you glide up toward your ears. Now keep them elevated as you protract and push your arms and your shoulders forward. And then keep them protracted, keep tension as you glide down. Nice. Now we're gonna go 2 more times in that direction. Retract, glide up, protract, glide down. 1 more. Retract, glide up, protract, glide down. Now pause in that depressed protraction. We're gonna reverse. You're gonna glide back up toward your ears. Keep them up as you glide back, squeezing your shoulder blades together, and then keep them squeezed together as you glide down your spine. 2 more in that direction. Protract, glide up, retract, glide down. 1 more. Protract, glide up, retract, glide down. Good. Protract 1 more time, and then release your arms down. Awesome. From here, we're going to go into a half kneeling position. 1 foot forward, flat on the floor. Back foot has the toes curled under still. And you want to drop your tailbone down to the floor, really keeping your hip right above your knee. We're going to cross the arms over our chest to do some T-spine rotations here. So start by pulling your elbows into your rib cage and then rib cage into your back body to round just the upper spine. So from the rib cage up, we're flexing our T-spine. Then from here, you're gonna rotate to the right, tracing your elbows along your rib cage as far as you can without moving your hips. From there, you're gonna drop your right shoulder back toward your right butt cheek, and then start to lift your sternum up. Trying to imagine like you're tracing a big rainbow at the center of your chest across the ceiling. Keep lifting up as you get to the opposite top corner, and then shoulder drops back and down toward your opposite butt cheek. Start to pull your elbows in toward your rib cage. Good, and then start tracing back to center. We have 1 more in that direction, my friends. Try to maintain your position with the lower half of your body. Good, drop that shoulder blade back. Find length on the opposite side as that shoulder reaches down toward your butt cheek. Lift through your sternum. Keep lifting up, 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 but keep the tailbone drop down. Get to the opposite top corner, then shoulder blade drops down toward your opposite butt cheek. And then pull the elbows in and toward yourself as the rib cage begins to pull in. Really round the upper spine and trace all the way back to center. Good, lift up, and we'll switch sides. And I like to cross my opposite arm on top just to make it different so that way you're not always doing the same side that feels comfortable, so it should feel a little awkward when you switch your arms. Okay, so now with the opposite foot in front, you're gonna drop your tailbone down toward the floor, really push your front foot down into the ground as well. And then from this tall position, you're gonna start to pull the elbows in toward yourself, pull your rib cage in and back, and find T-spine flexion. Now start to trace to the opposite side. So we're going in the opposite direction of our first 2 reps toward the front leg. Once you get as far in your rotation as you can, start to drop that shoulder blade back toward your butt cheek, finding a sense of lift on the opposite side of your torso. Then start to lift your sternum up, finding T-spine extension, and rotate all the way through the top center as if you're tracing a big rainbow across your ceiling. Get to the opposite top corner, and then drop your shoulder blade back toward your butt cheek. Start to pull the elbows in toward your rib cage, flexing the upper spine again. Find that rib cage compression. As you pass through center, you're in your maximum T-spine flexion. 1 more in that direction, rotate. Drop the shoulder back. Start to lift the sternum up, extending your T-spine, but keep that tailbone drop down. Keep going across the ceiling. Get to the opposite top corner, and then shoulder blade drops back. Pull the elbows in toward yourself, rib cage pulls in, round your upper spine, and then trace all the way back to the center. Good, lift back up. Nice job. Awesome, guys. So not only were we getting some active T-spine rotations there, we're also getting a nice active stretch for the hip flexors of the extended hip in that half kneeling position, which is why I like that. Okay, So now we're gonna come down onto our backs and we're going into some capsule rotations for the hip, okay? So you're gonna lay flat on your back and then you're gonna take one knee directly above your hip at a 90-degree angle. So we're gonna do what we call capsule rotations. So we're trying to really rotate at the base of our hip. Think about our knee being our compass point, and our shin is the compass that moves side to side. Okay, so keeping your body stable, rib cage pulled down and in. Tailbone is just slightly away from the floor, so we're not in an anterior tilt of our pelvis, just a slight posterior tilt. You'll feel your sacrum ground down into the base of the floor. And now from here, we're gonna externally rotate our hip and try to drive our foot across as if we're trying to reach our foot toward the opposite ear. And that inner thigh really engages to pull the foot across, keeping the knee directly above the hip. Hold there for 2 breaths. Really trying to fight for more rotation. And then slowly rotate through center, keeping tension in the leg. And then try to internally rotate your hip as much as you can without the knee pulling in toward the midline of the body. Really drive the pinky side of your foot out to the side. Take another breath there. And with tension, rotate through center. We have 2 more in each direction. Just finding the biggest rotations that you can. Really trying to activate at the base of the hip to rotate. Rotate through center. Internally rotate your hip as much as you can, really pulling that foot across, trying not to let the pelvis shift up or hike up toward your obliques. Good. 1 more in each direction. Externally rotate your hip, which will bring your foot across the midline of the body. Hold for a breath. Rotate through center with tension, keeping everything engaged. Then find that maximum internal rotation of your hip. Hold for 2 breaths. And exhale, come back to center. And we'll release that leg and switch. Okay, so opposite leg up, find that 90-degree angle. Find some abdominal engagement, rib cage is pulling down and in, tailbone is just slightly lifted up away from the floor. And then begin your external rotation, bringing your foot across toward your opposite ear. Hold there for 2 breaths. Try to fight for more rotation at your end range. Really like you're wringing out your inner thigh. Slowly rotate through center. Find that maximum internal rotation that you can, driving your foot out, away from the midline of your body. Hold. Good. Rotate through center. 2 more in each direction. Keeping everything engaged and activated as you hold in this rotation, trying to fight for more rotation. Rotate through center. Internally rotate as much as you can, keeping that pelvis slightly posteriorly tilted. Rotate through center. 1 more in each direction. Externally rotate. Really try to drive that foot all the way toward your opposite ear. Hold for 1 more breath. And rotate with tension through center. Find that maximum internal rotation. Rotate back to center and rest that leg down. Nice. So from here, we're going to move on to a progression of that with some knee extension as we rotate. So it doesn't matter if you can't straighten your knee all the way. You're going to try to straighten your knee as much as you can while maintaining the rotation. Here we go. So you're going to lift your first leg back up again. And now with that 90-degree angle, we're going to move into external rotation of our hip as much as you can. Good. Hold that external rotation and start to extend your knee. See if you can get your leg. See if you can get your leg as straight as possible. Good. Still an external rotation. And then internally rotate your hip. And now try to internally rotate more as you bend your knee again, pulling that foot out away from your body as much as you can. Good. Slowly rotate all the way back to your external rotation. Find your end range. Hold. And And now extend the knee again, really driving your heel up toward the ceiling. Try to keep that external rotation as you lengthen the leg. From there, internally rotate your hip. Think toes in, heel drives out. Then bend slowly, getting that maximum internal rotation with the leg bent. Good. Come to center, take a breath. And now we have two in the opposite direction. So internally rotate. Extend from the knee, drive the heel up in your internal rotation of your hip. Then externally rotate at the top. Keep externally rotating as you bend the knee. Try to pull your heel toward your opposite ear as you bend. Rotate with tension through center, all the way back to your maximum internal rotation. Extend slowly up. Keep internally rotating. As you extend, think toes turned in. Good. Hold there. Externally rotate from your hip. Then slowly bend. Find your maximum end range of your rotation. And rotate to center. Nice. We're going to switch. Woo. Yeah, and you might get a little cramp in your hip flexors there, because it's a lot of active hip flexion at the same time that we're doing these rotations. Okay, here we go. So 2 in each direction on this leg. Start with external rotation. Bring your foot across toward your opposite ear. Then from here, start to straighten that leg. Keep the external rotation as you straighten. Good. Then from there, internally rotate out your hip. Find your maximum internal rotation. And then slowly bend, hinging at your knee. Good. And now rotate through center. Find that external rotation again. Hold. Keep the knee where it is as you extend at the knee. Drive the heel up toward the ceiling. Now internally rotate at the base of your hip. Your heel will start to turn out, toes will start to turn in. Now keep that leg internally rotating as you bring the heel down in line with your knee. Hold. Rotate to center. And now 2 in the opposite direction. So internally rotate. Pause at your max. Slowly extend. Good. Then externally rotate. Slowly bend. Drive that foot toward your opposite ear. Pause at that 90-degree angle. Rotate through center. Internally rotate as much as you can. Really try to drive that foot out. Keep the internal rotation as you extend your knee. Drive the heel up toward the ceiling. Then externally rotate at the base of your hip. Then keep externally rotating as you bend and hinge at the knee. Try to drive that foot toward your opposite ear. And rotate back to center. And rest. Nice. Good, guys. We're going to go into an isometric hip extension next, or a glute bridge, just to get everything to counter that hip flexion that we just did a lot of. So feet hips width distance. Arms are going to press down into the floor. You're going to bridge your hips up. Try not to go into T-spine extension, so keep the rib cage pulled down and in. And now squeeze your butt cheeks as much as you can. Imagine you have a yoga block between your thighs. We're going to hold here. Good. Actively push those feet down into the floor. You can also try to drag your heels back toward your butt, as if you're trying to pull the floor closer toward your body, and hold. Keep breathing, keep squeezing those glutes. Getting as much active hip extension as you can. 10 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and lower your hips all the way down to the floor. Nice. Okay, guys. So from here, guys, we're gonna go into some side lying hip cars. So you're gonna bring your legs to stack up on top of one another at a 90-degree angle. So ankles and knees are in line, and your knees are in line with your hips. Okay, you're gonna lay down on that side of your body and bring your head to rest on your bicep. This opposite hand, the top arm, is gonna press down into the floor. You can have the arm bent or arm straight. I like to have my arm out straight just to have a little more leverage into the ground. Now, as we're doing these side-lying hip cars, I want you to think about the bottom side of your body supporting yourself, so don't just let yourself sink into the floor.
pull your obliques and engage them, lifting the bottom side of your rib cage up a little bit away from the ground. I don't know if you can see, but I have just like a centimeter, maybe even just a half centimeter of space between my rib cage and the floor, and I want to try to maintain that as I move through my top hip. Okay, so from here, we're going to keep the toes flexing up to the shins, and we're going to lift the top leg up just about an inch or two above our bottom leg. Then we're going to drive that knee in toward our chest, getting as much hip flexion as we can without rounding our low spine. Good. Now from there, we're going to abduct the hip and drive the knee up toward the ceiling, but making sure my pelvis doesn't rock back, so I'm really keeping my hips stacked on top of one another. Then I'm going to drift my knee out away from my body about an inch and internally rotate at my hip joint to drive my foot back in space. I'm going to keep internally rotating as I circle my knee down and back, finding my maximum hip extension. I'm trying to hide my foot behind me and get my knee in line with my hip. Now here, my rib cage will want to tend to flare open, so I'm going to pull that rib cage down and back and keep my abs braced. Squeeze my butt cheek to try to drive my foot back even more. Find more hamstring engagement. That's the main hip extender. Good. Hold there for a breath. And now start to reverse that hip carve by lifting the knee up toward the ceiling. You're abducting your hip in that internal rotation. It feels really challenging. Good. Then from there, you're going to externally rotate at your hip. Start lifting that knee back up toward the ceiling and driving it around in a big circle toward your chest. Pull it in again as far as you can and bring it back to the starting position. Nice. We have one more rep. See if you can ramp up your tension, maybe like 50% at least, full body tension, and begin your second rep. Lift the top leg, pull it in. Start to abduct up toward the ceiling. Find the outside of your glute to engage to lift. Now drive your knee about an inch away from you. That just makes room for your rotation of your hip. You're going to internally rotate, driving your foot back. Then start to really extend your hip by driving your heel back in space behind you as you circle it down, and it comes in line with your hip joint. So the leg and the femur is parallel to the floor. Hold here, brace your abs more. Think of dropping your tailbone down, rounding your low spine as you try to kick your heel back in space. Take one more breath. Now to reverse, you're going to start to lift that leg up toward the ceiling in the internal rotation. Get it up as high as you can. And then start to externally rotate as you circle your knee forward again, making the biggest circle you can, driving it in toward your chest, back to your hip flexion, and rest. Nice. Now we're going to do one more thing on this side. We're going to straighten our legs out at about 45-degree angle. The top arm can still rest into the floor. And we're just going to lift our hip up to about hip height and then do some capsule rotations here. So we're going to externally rotate at the hip, driving the toes up as high as we can toward the ceiling. Slowly internally rotate the hip, trying to turn the toes down, heel up. Okay, but we're not just rotating from the bottom half of our leg. The rotation's really happening from the base of our hip joint. Good, that's 2 rotations. We have 3 more reps. Try to keep the leg at the same height so it's not moving around in space. You're really just performing a simple rotation, but it also takes a lot in the outside of your glute minimus, glute medius, to hold the leg up at this height. 2 more reps. Rotate slowly, keeping tension in the whole body. Good. Find your end range in each rotation. You have 1 more external rotation, 1 more internal rotation. Good, and lower the leg. Nice. Okay, we're just going to change over for the other side, my friends. I'm going to turn this way so you guys can see me. Starting off with those 90-degree angles. Angles in line with your knees, knees in line with your hips. Take the top arm either straight out or bent at your chest. Either way is fine. And then think of pulling the underside of your rib cage up away from the floor so you have that like ½ centimeter of space and that lift of your rib cage away from the ground. Then from here, flex your toes up to your shins, lift your top leg up about 2 inches from your bottom leg, and then start to pull the knee in toward yourself. Finding as much hip flexion as you can, try not to round your low back. From there, start to abduct your hip, meaning bringing my knee up toward the ceiling as high as I can. Once you find your end range, drift your knee out about 2 inches away from you. Then internally rotate at your hip. Try to turn your foot back, hide your heel from yourself, and then start to drift the knee all the way back and down, coming in line with your hip. Internally rotate even more at your hip joint. Good. Hold here. Keep the rib cage pulled in. Brace your abs and drive your heel back even more. Find more hamstring engagement. Hold. Take a breath. And now exhale. Start to lift that knee back up toward the ceiling in your internal rotation, so foot is still behind you. Get your knee as high as you can, and then start to externally rotate your hip, and then you'll start to bring your knee all the way around in a half circle toward your chest again, bringing it down in line with your torso. Find that maximum hip flexion, and then come back to your starting position. Awesome. We have one more rep. Take a moment to breathe. Lift the underside of your rib cage away from the ground and lift your top leg up. Then start to pull it in toward your chest. Good. Find your end range of your hip flexion, and then start to abduct from there, lifting your knee up toward the ceiling. Hold. Drive the knee out about 1 inch away from you, and then internally rotate. Try to rotate as much as you can. Keep rotating. Find more internal rotation as you drive your knee back in space, circling it down, coming in line with your torso. Keep kicking back. Find your hamstring and your glute, but keep your tailbone dropping down toward your opposite heel. Take one more breath here. Rib cage is pulled in and down. From here, keep the internal rotation as you drive up with the knee toward the ceiling, abducting in that internal rotation. Then start to externally rotate at your hip. Keep externally rotating as you circle your knee all the way back toward your chest, finding your maximum hip flexion. Pull it in and bring it down. Nice. Then we're going to straighten the legs, and we have 5 capsule rotations in this straight leg position. So keep the underside of your rib cage pulled away from the floor. Keep your whole body active. Lift your top leg up just so the ankle comes in line with your hip. And then from here, externally rotate, internally rotate. Again, keeping the leg at the same position, but just rotating at the base of your hip joint. Good. Internally rotate again. You have 3 more in each direction. Take time to really wring out the base of your hip joint like you're wringing out a wet cloth. 2 more times. Keep the leg at the same height. 1 more. Externally rotate as much as you can. Good. Keep the tension as you slowly internally rotate. Try to turn your heel up. Good. And lower down. Awesome. Cool.
So, from here, guys, we're going to move into a gliding kneeling hip hinge. So, if you have a towel, feel free to get one, or a glider. You're going to need it, okay? Okay, guys, so for this section, what you're going to need is either like a disc glider or a towel that you can use on like a hardwood floor. Either way will work. If you don't have either of those things, just see what you can do with this. Maybe you're on a carpet, you might be able to glide in your socks. Okay, so we're gonna come to a half kneeling position with one leg out to the side, and that leg is gonna be straight. Big toe side of your foot is gonna be grounded into the glider or the towel, and you're gonna try to lift that pinky edge of your foot up. So our foot's not flat, it's on its side, on its big toe side. From here, try to align your base leg's hip directly above the knee, and we're gonna go into some active hip hinges while we glide this leg out. So I like to cross my arms over my chest for this. You can also have your hands on your hips. You wanna try to keep your spine nice and long, and you're gonna glide and hinge your straight leg out to the side as you hinge your butt cheek back, and then push down through the straight leg's foot to help glide you back in and stand tall, squeezing your standing leg's butt cheek at the top, dropping that tailbone down. Okay,
So that's the motion from the front. I'm just gonna turn a little bit to the side so everyone can see what my hips are doing. Okay, so we have this straight leg on the towel or the glider. My standing legs, toes are curled under toward my shin so I can get that nice posterior tilt at the top and feel a little more supported in that standing leg. Now we're gonna do 5 repetitions. You're gonna glide out on your inhale, reaching that leg out to the side as you hinge your butt back, spine stays long. As I exhale, I push that gliding foot down into the floor and use my inner thigh to help me come back up. 4 more. Inhale. And exhale. 3 more times. Last 2. Good. Last one. Awesome. We're going to come out of that position. Before we go to the other side, we're going to do 2 rounds of segmented cat-cow. Come down into tabletop on hands and knees. Round your spine as much as you can. Head drop down, tailbone dropped under, and toes are curled under toward the shin. From here, send your tailbone up toward the ceiling. Slowly go up your spine into extension. Each vertebrae articulates like a slow wave. Good. Get your head up last. Pause here at the top. Take a breath. And then drop your tailbone down slowly. Keep going up each vertebrae into flexion. Rounding your spine as much as you can. Head drops down last. 1 more round. Just make it smooth. Try to articulate and segment as much as possible. Tailbone initiates, head stays down as long as you can. Once your chest starts to open, try to keep pushing out of the floor so you don't sink into your scaps and shoulders. Good, hold an extension for a breath. And then drop that tailbone down again, slowly moving back into lumbar flexion. And then your whole spine articulates up, back into flexion, head drops down last. Awesome. From here, we're gonna change sides. So putting the opposite foot on the glider. Just gonna turn this way a little bit so you guys can see my hips. Okay, so big toe mound on the glider. That big toe side of your foot is grounded. Pinky side is lifted, okay? Opposite leg has the toes curled under toward the shins. Start in a nice tall spine. And this leg is going directly out from the side of your hip. So just make sure it's not like in front or too far behind you. You want it directly in line with your hip joint. Cross your arms over your chest or put your hands on your hips. Begin to hinge as you glide that leg out to the side. As you exhale, push down into the big toe side of your foot. Use your inner thigh to help pull you back up to the top. And 4 more reps. Inhale. And exhale. Two more. Really use that inner thigh to help pull you back up smoothly. Last one. And press down to come up, tallest posture you can find. Good. Awesome. We're going to do 2 more rounds of segmented cat-cow, starting from the tailbone again. So get onto your hands and knees. Hands right underneath shoulders, knees underneath hips. Round your spine. We're just going to go a little bit faster than we did during that first set. Here we go. Send the tailbone up from here, segmenting all the way up into your extension. Head lifts up last. And then from here, tailbone drops down. Segment all the way back up each vertebrae into flexion. 1 more time. Move with your breath. Keep breathing. Take a big inhale in your full extension. Head stays up as long as you can. Drop your tailbone down. big exhale here. And release. Nice, guys. So, last big thing we're gonna do today is some abduction PAILs and RAILs. So, you're gonna come back into that tabletop position with one leg out to the side, just like we did for the gliders. Okay, I'm gonna have my stable legs, arm and knee still in line. My opposite hand is underneath my shoulder. And then my opposite leg is out to the side, just like we had on the gliding section, okay? From here, we're gonna press the straight legs foot down into the floor, starting to build up tension, which is what we call our PAIL. So it's a progressive, angular, isometric load, and we're loading that abduction right now of our hip. So we're pressing in and down. Good, I want you to get to what feels like 50% of your maximum push, and we're gonna hold. Here we go, 15 seconds, pushing down into the floor. It's as if you're trying to close your leg in toward your body, but the floor is obviously in your way. Keep pressing for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release the push, nothing else changes in the body, but try to lift that foot up off the ground now. Good, 10 seconds. And 3, 2, 1, lower down. Nice. We just have one more round of this, guys. If you want to try to load your hip joint more, come down onto your elbows if you felt like that was really easy. If you feel like this is crazy challenging and you can't get your leg to lift off the floor, that's okay. But see if you can keep trying muscularly to activate that abduction. Okay, here we go. You have the option to ramp up your tension now. So if you want to go to 75 or full body maximum tension, go for it. Here we go. Our rail is 15, or our PAIL is 15 seconds. Start pressing down into the floor. At least 75% tension. Try to crush the ground with the inside of that straight leg. 10 seconds left. Keep pushing for 3, 2, 1. Now release the push and lift. Try not to lean in the opposite direction. Keep your shoulders right above your wrists. Keep holding. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and lower down. Nice. All right, guys, we have 2 rounds on the opposite side, so just take time to change your sides. Woo! Really gets you fired up, right? And see if you can really target that outside of your glute medius to lift that leg. Okay, set yourself up with your opposite leg directly out from your hip. Hands are directly underneath your shoulders. Opposite knee is underneath the stable leg's hip. And we're gonna start by building up our tension, pushing down into the floor. So start by gently pushing the inside edge of your straight leg's foot down into the ground. It's a slow buildup of tension. And now I want you to get to your 50% of your maximum push. Good. At your 50%, we're gonna hold that push. 15 seconds. Keep trying to crush the ground. And keep pushing away the floor. Try not to sink into your scalps. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release the push and now try to lift that leg up. Try not to let anything else in the body change. Keep lifting. 7 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Lower down. All right, guys, we have one more round. See if you can get to your 75% or your maximum push. Here we go. Start to build up that tension, pushing your straight leg's foot down into the floor as hard as you can. Keep pushing out of the ground with both arms. Keep your spine long. 15 seconds here. Last 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, release the push, and now lift. Try not to lean in the opposite direction. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, lower down. Nice. Go ahead, come out of that position. Awesome, guys. You did it. That was great. We're just gonna cool down with some 90-90 rotations. So we're gonna go from the 90-90 position through bear sit, try to actively abduct both of our hips as much as we can to spread the knees as wide as possible, and slowly transition to the other side. We're gonna do 2 in each direction, okay? So you're gonna set up with one leg forward at a 90-degree angle with your hip. Opposite leg, the back leg, is also at a 90-degree angle, so hip is in line with your knee and ankle are also in line. Okay, now dorsiflex your ankles, so toes to the shins. You're gonna start by grounding this front leg down into the floor. And you're gonna take both hands behind you to open up your chest a little bit, and you can walk your hands back a little to incline your spine back, especially if you have tight hips. Now from here, I'm gonna start by lifting my back heel up, so I'm just on my big toe mound, and I'm gonna externally rotate that hip, swiveling on my big toe, and try to get my heel to rotate underneath my ankle. Once I can't rotate that hip open anymore without lifting my other leg, I'm gonna set that heel down and start to slowly transition to both sit bones, slowly lifting my other leg up. But I wanna keep my knees as wide apart as possible. Now just take a moment here to drive both knees out, take a breath. And now from here, you're gonna start to transition your weight to the opposite sit bone, start driving that knee down, but try to keep your opposite knee, what was your front knee, up as long as possible. Once you get that new front knee down onto the floor, you're gonna lift this heel up, and it's now gonna become your back leg, slowly internally rotating, swiveling on that big toe, and setting the knee all the way down. So now you're in the 90-90 position, facing the opposite way. Okay, we're gonna go back the other way. So lift your heel up of your back leg, start to externally rotate that hip, opening the knees apart as wide as you can. Transition slowly into your bear sit, hold. Take a breath, really drive the knees apart. Good, from here, you're gonna transition your weight over to your opposite leg. That knee is gonna try to really reach the ground as far down as it can without rotating this knee in. Good, then you're gonna swivel, bringing the heel under, get onto your big toe mound, and internally rotate your back hip. Bring the knee down, take a breath. And now if that felt nice and approachable for you and it didn't feel too sticky, you're gonna bring your hands just a little closer to your butt, or maybe you can bring your hands up or maybe out in front of your chest. And this is what I'm gonna do so you guys can follow along if possible, okay? Or you can just keep your hands where they were. So from here, keeping the front leg down as long as you can, lift the back heel up and swivel on your big toe as you externally rotate that hip. Rotate it as far as you can, and then start to shift your weight into center, getting onto both sit bones. Good. Keep a tall spine here as much as you can. Drive those knees apart as wide as possible. Then start to slowly transition your weight into the opposite leg. Get onto that sit bone. Drive that knee down to the floor. Good. Then start to internally rotate your new back leg, slowly swiveling on that big toe mound, and bringing that knee all the way down. Nice. We just have one more time to get back to the other side, guys. So keeping this front leg down as long as you can, get on your big toe mound, start to externally rotate, try to keep a tall spine, swivel that heel under, then start to lift that opposite leg up off the floor, get into your bear sit position. You can really protract your scaps here if your arms are in front of you, and drive your knees out. Take a breath. Good. Now from here, start to shift your weight into the opposite hip and think of driving that new front leg down into the floor. Good. Move nice and slow with control. Start to swivel on your big toe mound, lifting that heel underneath you and internally rotate that back hip to get back to where we started. Nice. Good job, guys. We're going to finish up with a little bit of breath work. So from here, you're gonna lay down on your back with your legs bent, feet hips width distance. Just take a few moments to ground your back down into the floor. Feel your pelvis be really heavy. And then let's take our hands to the sides of the rib cage. And to finish here, we're going to really try to tap into a slow rhythm of breath. So that way we can activate our parasympathetic nervous system, which is our rest and digest mode. So all of that hard work that we did, we were probably in our sympathetic nervous system, which is fight or flight mode. It's where we are usually, working our bodies in. And it's usually where we're in when we're stressed mentally too, like with work or anything else that can be a stressor in your life. So it's important at the end of a workout to try to tap into that rest and digest mode. So we're just trying to slow down our breath right now. Take some nice big inhales through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. And with your hands on your rib cage, see if you can start to think about inflating your rib cage, not only up toward the ceiling, but also out to the sides so that it inflates into the sides of your body and into your palms of your hands. Good. We're going to do a few rounds of breath together, inhaling for 3 counts. And then exhaling for 6 counts. So with the exhale longer, we tend to get into more of our relaxation. So let's focus on a really long exhale. So here we go. Inhale for 1, 2, 3. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale 1, 2, 3. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale 1, 2, 3. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Take a few more rounds at your own pace. And if you can even lengthen your exhales a few more counts, go for it. Take one more nice big inhale. One more long exhale. And then just come to a natural rhythm of your breath. If your eyes are closed, you can softly blink them open. And just take both knees into your chest. Give yourself a little rock forward and back. And come up to seat. Nice, guys. Thanks so much for joining me. That was a lot of work for your hips, so they might feel a little bit tender and sore, maybe later or tomorrow. So just do some nice active stretches for them or some more activations for them just to get some of that tension out. And I hope you guys enjoyed our mobility sequence that we did today. Let me know if you have any questions or comments. Feel free to type them in and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And subscribe to my YouTube channel for some more mobility classes. We've got a lot of awesome things coming out right now. And we also have a lot of strength training and animal flow and things like that as well. We really believe in the diversity of a movement practice, and that's where true strength comes from.
So in order to be truly strong, truly agile, you know, whatever your goal is, we have to give a diverse amount of movement to our bodies so that way we can really adapt to any task and any environment. Okay, thanks so much for tuning in with me, and I'll see you guys next time.